Welcome to the 757 Spy Flight on YouTube. Yep, that's it. That is the new ATR. This is the short one. And hello, my name is Dave. Welcome to the channel. Welcome if you are new. Thank you for coming by. I think that this is probably one of the exciting airplanes. It's just been released. I've had it for about a week. Did not get an advance copy, not sponsored by anybody. And my take on this airplane, without no sponsorships and stuff, this is really an extraordinary little airplane. I don't think it's too terribly well understood. I think that there's some things about this airplane. Yes, it's new, so that means there's a bug or two, and the developers already said, hey, chill, bugs are going to get plugged or swatted or whatever it is that the developers do on those sorts of things. But that being said, there is an awful lot in this particular airplane. It's been fun to learn how to fly this. So we're going to do a complete flight today. Let's talk about it. It's the ATR 42. There's two airplanes that you get, and wait till you see the price. This is, I would expect to pay double, almost triple for an airplane that I think that is as in-depth as this airplane. This is a full cold and dark flight. I'm going to show you how I load passengers and fuel. We will also import a SimBrief flight plan. I am using Navigraph, SimBrief, and Volanta for today's flight. I also sometimes use SkyVector, and I will also use FlightAware if I'm going to go and look for some gates. What will we do? Yeah, as I said, I think this is a great airplane with a very low cost. $20 if you've got basic Microsoft Flight Simulator, less if you've got Premium Deluxe. So that's really cool. Now, that being said, big problem here, zero documentation on this airplane, and we'll chat about that when we get into cruise. Let's also chat a little bit about what in the community we're calling expert series versus study level. But again, I think this is a really good airplane. In fact, I think this is perfect if you're new to Flight Simulator and you've been flying GA and you want to start doing airliner kinds of things. This is absolutely a perfect airplane for it. Our flight plan for today is going to be Manchester to Inverness. It is a real-world route that Loganair actually flies. They don't fly this airplane on it, but I think it's close enough. We're departing off of 23 right from Manchester. Up at Inverness right now, they are landing on runway 05. My cruise level, flight level 180, 18,000 feet. It is about an hour and 45 minutes gate to gate. The flight distance is 327 miles. Yeah, this is not the airplane that you want to take if you want to get someplace really, really, really fast, okay? So what I've gone and done is I've gone through SimBrief, and I've already generated a flight plan. So my flight plan is already taken care of. I've gone and exported a PDF of the Lido style of flight plan, and so pretty much all of that is done. As you can see from the progress bar and the purple graphic at the top, I've already activated Volanta. The other thing that I've gone and done is I've gone into my Navigraph, and I've got what I call the stack of charts. These are all the charts that I'm going to need for today's flight. As you can see, we're here at stand 48. We are going to be doing a nice easy taxi down to 23 right for departure. That means we're going to be doing the Pole 5 Romeo departure. We do have a 5,000 foot altitude restriction going out, so that's about the only thing we'll watch out for there. Coming on in right now, Inverness is landing on runway 05, so that means you do this little jump to the left and step to the right approach, which should be fairly entertaining in this airplane. And we are landing on runway 5, so we're going to hope that we get to the midway point here so that we can use this portion of runway 1129 as a taxiway back into the gate area. By the way, there is a very, very nice freeware airport that has been a work in progress for a while for Inverness, and I think it's well worth your time. It's over at flightsim.to. So there we go. I've got the map zoomed in right now. As you can see, this is the really, really cool zoom in feature that you've got with Navigraph, and I think that that's really nice, and have that all set up for our travels here. It's great for keeping track of where you are on the ground, for if anything. One of the things that I do, the way that I learn how to do airplanes and stuff like that, is just like you do. I watch a YouTube. And I've been watching a lot of YouTube on this airplane, and there are some really, really great videos that are done. There are videos done by real airline pilots, including airline pilots that sit in the left seat of this airplane, and I really can't recommend them enough. My whole goal here is to put something together with the spy flight flare or whatever you want to call it, and try and make it possible if you're brand new to flight sim to get in this airplane and successfully take off and land and everything else. As I always like to say, this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is just what I have found that works for me. I do have a private pilot's license. I've had one for a lot of years. I've been live streaming for about 6 years. So hopefully maybe what works for me is something that's going to work for you too. And that being said, I do have this little thing over here called the Spy Flow. This is basically a text to document, and this is everything that I do, start to finish, first to last. And if you want, it's over on the Spy Discord. It's a fairly big notepad, so you can get it over on the checklist. Link in the description below, so that should help you out there. And with that, I think that that's all the introduction. Let's go ahead and start doing the things that we need to do to get ready to fly the airplane. And the first thing that we need to do, that I usually do, is load the airplane, and this is the PDF file of my flight plan. I need a couple of numbers out of this. Now, generally, you know, we load the PMDG and the Phoenix and the fly-by-wire and most all the other airplanes with 0 fuel weight and fuel. Can't really load the airplane like that. This is one of the things that I hope that they change down the road so that we can load this the way we load airplanes, 0 fuel weight, or actually put the passengers in their seats. You can do that too, but you have to go through something that I call it a little bit of an immersion buster, and that is the little weight icon here, and that is your weight and balance tab. Now, there is a way that you can go ahead and do this. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to load the fuel. Over here on the flight plan, our total fuel, block fuel here at Manchester, is 2014 kgs. I do my planning in this airplane in kilograms. So let's go ahead and make sure that I switch this to kgs. There we go. That's good. And then here's the fuel slider up here. And here is the maximum allowable fuel weight. There are several ways that you can do this. You could do the fuel slider. So we'll go ahead and let it slide here and drop the fuel to as close to 2014 as we can. So there's that. Now you can also use the thumb wheel a little bit. And so there's 20, there's 19. So the closest that we can get using the thumb wheel here is 2038. Okay, that's not bad. You could also go in and double click, divide the fuel. You can double click in here and type in a number. I think that this is close enough, and given the fact we're loading with this interface, I think it's great. This interface is not about exact loading. The next thing is payload. So we don't, as I said, Microsoft has never given us a 0 fuel weight down here, which would be nice, but we can do payload. And if you're using the Lotto style of charts, go to page 3, and there is your payload, 3040. So all we got to do is drag the payload slider down to 3040. So there's 3, and then we can just use the thumb wheel on your mouse. There's 3058. You know what? That is close enough. I think that this is called close enough, and for loading it like this until we get a better way to load the airplane, I think close enough is great. So this is pretty much it. So we're done with this, and loading of the airplane is done. So we've got that done. The next thing to do is hop in the airplane and start doing airplane things. Now, one of the things that I kind of wish that developers gave us is a way to access EFBs from outside the airplane for immersion and stuff. So it'd be kind of cool if we could, access the EFB, come back here and open the door. Okay, that's probably a little nitpicky and a little airplane geeky, to be able to open the door from the outside, but okay, this is flight sim, and I have absolutely, I am an airplane geek. That's what most of us are. So we've got the door. All we can do is hop in the cockpit and come on down here, go to the aircraft, and we're going to go to ground power. I'm going to open the main door and open the cargo bay. And there we go. There's our door open. There's the cargo bay. And so that's good. Also looking in here, I've got wheel chocks in place. Ground power is set. Options, I'm going to turn off the PFD throttle hints. I know where my throttles are right now. You can set up the throttles. Mine are still a little bit dodgy right now. Oh, and don't forget the ClickSpot help page here to be able to know where you can click in the primary flight display and the navigation display and the checklist display. That really is going to be something that's going to be helpful for you. Okay, so we've gone and done that. Just like the real world pilots, I'm going to go and make sure that my controllers are actually working. I'm going to make sure that my throttles are working. I'm going to make sure that the condition levers are working, that the buttons for going and do cutoff are working. USB connectors disconnect sometimes. They actually disconnect, and that's a problem. I've got the gear down, and then the problem is my twist stick is my nose wheel tiller, and it's getting a little jittery. So if I will just go and move it a little bit, that stops some of the jitteriness. Now, you're not going to be able to move the control column right now because the gust lock is in place. So that's it. That's my little pre-starting the airplane, and it's now actually time to start flipping buttons and switches, which is what we're doing when we come into flight sim, right? First thing that I like to do, battery goes on. And then as the battery goes on, we'll hear the sound of the battery kick into gear here. And some blowers are going. And if you look down here, you'll look in and you'll see monitor 2 and 4 turn on, and the pilot's FMS, Flight Management System, or FMC. We've also got a caution light flashing. That's normal. Caution lights flash all the time in this airplane. So we're going to go ahead, and with those two things on at that point in time, then at that point, I'm going to go ahead and hit the ground power button. Ground power is now available. A little bug in the airplane at the moment is the airplane comes with the beacon and the navigation lights already turned on. So instead of turning on the nav lights like we would do now, I'm going to turn off the beacon. So that's what we do with those things. Now then, the next thing that you do is, this is sort of like pre-Airbus-y, and then so the whole idea with the upper panel is turn off most of the white lights. I'm going to leave my fuel pumps off, and I'm also going to leave the probe heaters off. But with that said, I'm going to turn on the DC generator 1 and 2. I'm going to turn on the AC wild electric power 1 and 2. I'm going to turn on my oxygen, because breathing, I guess, passengers like that. And then the next thing we'll do is we're going to turn on the 3 power switches here for the hydraulic system. So we've got those 3 things turned on at the moment, and all of those are on. And then the last thing I'll do is I'm going to go and start adjusting my lights. The first thing you can do is the interior cabin lights are right here, and I'm just going to turn those off. This is a daytime flight. I do leave my dome lights set to dim. Now that does mean that it turns off the lights back here in the cabin, but the lights right now are pretty bright. There is a fix that you can get for this in flightsim.to. I thought I would basically wait and see what the updates are like before I start putting some of these tweaks in here. The next thing that I do is I will come down here, and we've got 2 knobs right here, and this is a little bit more lighting. Even if it's daylight, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn up the pedestal lights, and I'm going to turn on the upper panel lights. I may have mixed those made those backwards. Yep, pedestal and overhead. So pedestal and overhead, I turn them up like this. This is the backlighting on your instrument panel, and I think it makes it easier to see stuff. So I will go and do the cabin lights, and this is the first part of the flight. Now at this point, depending upon your flight, depending upon your airline, there is a thing in this airplane called hotel mode. And it was great to learn over on the spy flight. Hotel mode is actually a boat term, a marine term. So that comes to us from boats, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But the first thing that I'll usually do is, and some airlines, they start up hotel mode. That's the first thing. You do not need ATC clearance, according to the videos I've seen, to start hotel mode. So to go ahead and do that, we're going to do, if it's been a while, you may need to go and hit this button down here. This is the auxiliary hydraulic pump for ground only, and that runs the pump for 30 seconds, and that way we can come up here, and that means we have got the prop brake is ready. Now, sometimes you don't have to do that. Sometimes you do. I think the ready light here, and once that's in place, you can unguard it. You can turn it on, and then the prop brake light goes on, and then reguard it. Okay, then the next thing you're going to do is turn on the wing lights. So for ATR operations, if you're going to go and start turning things on like, you know, hotel mode on engine number 2, you're going to go into the wing lights. That lets the ground crew know that engine's going to start doing something. Okay, then we're going to come up here and do fuel pump number 2. We're going to do the engine starter to start A and B, and we're going to start engine number 2. As that's going down, we'll look over here, and you can see the NH percent is going up. As soon as you get to 10%, go ahead and just move the condition lever a little bit, and that's going to move the condition lever from shut off to feather. And that engine's coming up. You can also come over here and take a look at NP percent. That's your propeller rotation. If it's 0 and prop brake is up there, then you know that you have set it properly. And that's the last time I'll do that joke. And if you go outside the airplane, you're starting to hear airplane sounds. That's because this engine is now on. This is our APU. This airplane doesn't have an APU. That's what hotel mode is. It's going to provide us with air conditioning and electricity on the airplane for us. Okay, so all of those are good. The engine starter now needs to go to the off position. And there we go. Now, if this point in time, you could also disconnect external power. I'm going to leave my external power in for just a little bit longer. Means that maybe it doesn't have to work as hard. I don't know. But anyhow, at this point in time, you could go through and do some checks. You can do fire checks up here on the engines. So you can ring bells. Bells ring. You can do fire checks. You can also do the annunciator light checks. That's going to be down here. This turns on all the lights in the cockpit. There's the test. You can do those sorts of things. You can also do GPWS tests. All of those tests are available, and they're modeled in the airplane. It's pretty cool. The next thing that I'm going to do is come on down here and, well, these things are flashing. Let's get rid of the flashing things right now. Okay, so we're going to do the caution. And we have the checklists down here. If you click in the middle of this memo box here, that's going to move this blue bar. And we're going to highlight this one, click at the bottom, and that's selected. And this is your first cockpit preparation. And this is sort of like the little pre-thing that you've got to just, okay, yeah, system 3.1, blah, blah, blah. And that procedure is completed. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And with that being done, it's time to go and start doing the FMS. I've got my FMS set up here. This is the only one that works. I haven't been able to do anything with the co-pilot side. So this is the one to use. I have it also set up so I have the radio panel and the radio panel here. So I've got it set up. It's a little bit far away, but it works 90% of the time for me. Now, we're going to go ahead and load the flight plans. So we need the SimBrief downloader. Yes, it's free. You can go and get this, and this is going to go and load it all up. And they have gone and created, they've already updated the Microsoft ATR 42 and 72. It's already in there. The download directory is kind of a long thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Control-C, and I'm going to put this in the notes for you. So you will find these in the notes. And I'm going to remember to put those in the notes. That way you can see it. But if you're basically going to put this in app data, local packages, the big Microsoft name that's ridiculously long, the local state packages, Microsoft Aircraft ATR, and work. That's where that's going to go. And then once you do that, just hit export. I just have it export all the things that I am exporting right now, and we're done. It's right there. So our flight plan's ready to go. It's big, it's long. If I talk too fast, there's actually a couple of YouTubes available right now that shows you exactly how to do that. And I think it even posted in the comments like I'm about to. With that being said, we can now go in, and the first thing that I do is let's make this a little bit bigger for you to see. So I'm going to go and move this around. And my moving around is not some of the swiftest stuff some of the time. but I think that should work pretty good. Okay, so FMS number 1, and you can see that it's the ATR 42, and it looks good, and we're going to go to init. There is, I haven't read this. Some people say you do a position init, some people say you don't. Right now I'm doing a position init. I haven't blown up the world, so I do GPS position. I put it in the init position. Now, since it stays yellow, I kind of feel like yellow is caution, not final. And there's a button down here that says sensors initialization. If I click that, it turns it green. Now, that may be wrong. That's just what I'm doing right now. And again, the internet hasn't crashed. Has it? I don't see smoke. So there we go. It seems to be okay. Maybe it's wrong, but it's working for me. Flight plan init. Let's go over here. You can do 2 things. We're going to get the main route. You can enter your flight plan manually, or you can go EGCC, EGCC, no space, no slash, and we're going to Inverness, EGPE, EGPE, and put that in the ident box. Now, one thing about this airplane, here's the thing. When you put something in there, it takes a second. So the thing that I've had to learn is don't be impatient. This thing is old, it's clunky, and give it a sec. This is not instant gratification. But there's our flight plan. It's already in there. Perfect. Looks good. Let's go ahead and hit execute. And it turns it green. See, I think green is good. That's why I'm doing the position initialization the way I am. Green is good, right? Okay, with that, let's go into the flight plan. And it already shows our departure, EGCC 23 right. It's going this is the departure, right? Let's go ahead and see. Did it get the departure in there? I think it did. Uxmat, Pole Hill. I think this is it. Let's see, is that it? Yeah, this is our departure. It's already done that. Perfect. Next page, there's Pole Hill. Then we've got a couple of spots, Nesla, Ribble, Igrap, Shap. That looks about right to me. Then there's TLA and GRICE, and then the runway. Did that look right too? Did it put the ILS in there for me? So we're coming on in here. So GRICE isn't in there. So here's D25, D16, D14. I think this has plugged this in for us. We shall soon see, won't we? Are we really going to TLA? I guess so. Before GRICE? Oh, okay. That we're on the 601. Yep, we are. Okay. So all of this is set, and it looks like it's ready to go. We don't have to do anything. How about that? It's even got the right runway. Outstanding. Okay, so now that that's done, the next thing that I do is I go to Data, and then I go to Init, and we do Wait. Now then, since we've already loaded the airplane, this is what I thought that we could go and put zero fuel plate and fuel on board in. Not really, no. This is just going to be to take the data from the simulator and plug it into the flight management computer. So hold down the ZFW button. 1, 2, 3, and there it is. 14,637. And if you go, you can look at your flight plan and compare that. 14,740. See, that was that real close number that I was telling you about. Let's do fuel on board. Now, this fuel on board is going to go and put this in here for you, okay? This is not exact from these. If you look over here on this fuel panel here, this is your actual gas gauge. And you can see this is going down a little bit because we're juicing the right engine here. We're running fuel off the right engine and the right side of the airplane, so it's a little lower. These numbers do not feed this number. Okay, so that was another thing that I had to learn. So this number is independent. So you could do math, and it's at this point it's close. So close is good on this airplane. The next thing I'm going to come in here and do is we're going to do the, we're going to go ahead and do reserves. And this is what I'm putting in final reserves and alternate, which is 768. 768. That goes in there, and that's done. I'm going to come back in here to data, init, and we are going to now do our performance initialization. And I'm going to slide this over so it's a little easier for you to see. There we go. Okay, cruise altitude. Our cruise altitude for today's flight is 18,000 feet. 18,000 feet. The service ceiling on this airplane is 25,000 feet, and I will tell you it takes a little bit of work to get there. So even if SimBrief tries to put me at 25,000 feet, I don't go there, especially the longer version of this airplane. Maybe it's different with the smaller version. The bigger version, yeah, forget it. Okay, over here on page 2, this is our alternate EGPE. And if we have to go to our alternate, we are going to fly it at 24,000 feet. So put that in there, EGPK, EGPK. Do the little slashy thing here, and then do 24,000 feet. And put this in here. This is another one of those things that you don't get instant gratification on. So when you push it, wait a second. Just chill, it will eventually show up. Okay, with that, let's go ahead and we're going to do performance. So over here on the performance page, we'll get the transition altitude. The transition altitude here out of Manchester is 5,000 feet. So let's put in 5,000 feet for the transition. And by the way, the transition does not flash at you like an Airbus. You got to remember it. It's already computed some speeds for takeoff, and these speeds are for a non-limited runway. I don't know where it is that you go if you've got snow, ice, and rain. So no limitations. And I think it's full length. Okay, so let's go to the next page. And the next page we have something called mean wind. Another word for that might be average winds. And our average winds are right here, page 1. The winds are 232 at 43 knots. So 232 at 40, got to type the 4 before the 3 and put that in there. Now that's about all that I do on this one. You could go to page number 3 and you could put in the transition altitude coming into your airport. So coming on in here, it says transition level by ATC. The altitude is 3,000. We're not flying online. Let's just go ahead. There's one thing that says you always add 1,000 feet to that or something. Let's just go ahead and pop in 3,000. That will work for today. And then we'll put in our winds for landing, and we'll put in our QNH when we get a little closer. But now I'm going to go back here and leave this on page 1. Okay, the next thing that it's time to do is, for me, I'm going to go ahead and put in my runway heading and my cleared altitude. So the runway heading for our runway today is off the main chart here. We're coming in off 23 right, and that's going to be 232 degrees. Right now, and this is kind of hard to see, it says 279 is the heading that's in there. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just go ahead and... Oh, wait a minute. Is that our first? Did it already put in our first heading? 344. No. I'm going to go ahead and put in that 232. I just like to have a runway heading. 232. And then once you, of course, move it one click, it zeroes it out. And so it's a small number here. And I'm going to go and put in my runway heading. 232. So there's 300. There's 290, 280, 270. It takes forever. 6, 5, 4. And then we'll just use the thumb wheel on the mouse to go to 232. Next thing we'll do is cleared altitude. That's right now it's 5,000 feet. And so that's above the altitude tape. Again, a little hard to see. I guess it's better in the cockpit, but for sim pilots, sometimes these numbers are a little small. 5,000 feet. Okay, and then the next thing we can do is do our altimeter. Altimeter is 1018. And that's right down here. So 1018 is our baro. 17 and 18. There we go. And at that point in time, we're starting to get stuff set up here. If I look at my really, really big long list, that's most all of this here. We've looked for discontinuities. You can also play this back in the, you could also play it back and look at the map. But all of that is looking really good. So we've done the ND performance button. We're going to do takeoff data is confirmed. I think we're ready to go and start closing up the airplane. Yep, we are. Oh, we could do the transponder. So we'll come down here to surveillance. Our transponder will click up here and we'll put in 1000. And we will hit enter. You could hit the nav button and come over here to ND overlay and turn on nav aids and airports. You could also turn on terrain radar. And then the click spots here are so nice. We can click here and turn it into map mode. Click it on the right side, and I like to fly with the map sort of, you know, the half map. And then we've got that. We can also set traffic. We could turn on terrain radar if we want to. There's terrain radar, or we could do none for now. I'm going to leave it at none. And then the last thing I'll do is, especially if I'm on VATSIM, is I'm going to go to COM. Okay, so that's good. I think it's time to go and run a checklist. So over here, let's zoom in and take a closer look. So here are all the things that are wrong with the airplane, but we know that. We know that the fuel feed is low. We know that there's low hydraulic pressure. Final cockpit preparations, and then click the bottom of the memo. So parking brake. Yep, parking brake is set. Altimeters checked and set. Landing elevation. If everything is cool with the landing elevation, that's going to be 0. That's going to be blank. You won't see anything in there. It's set automatically. The FMS, the COM, and the nav is all set. Our fuel quantity and fuel on board, yeah, we've kind of eyeballed that. It's good for now. We could do the math, but we want to fly. Engine fuel used, reset. Ah, we need to do that. How do we do that? Well, come on over here. Oh, maybe it's this one. There it is. Okay, so this is aircraft data. We need to go over here and confirm our takeoff data. So those are our takeoff speeds. That's going to set your bugs for takeoff. When we do that, I'm also going to come over here and hit this button for auto speeds or manage speeds as opposed to manual. And we're going to reset our fuel used. Okay, so that's good. And we'll go back to the map mode. So that's good. Engine and fuel used is set. The memo panel is checked and we understand that. Power management is set to takeoff. And that procedure is done. It is almost time to do the before propeller rotation checklist. Yes, before propeller rotation. But for that, we're going to go over here and let's start doing a few things. First of all, we can close that cargo door. Cargo door is closed. We can also go in and we can close the passenger door. There goes our passenger door closed. Nice passenger door. Let's go ahead, and since we've already got the generators, we're going to go ahead and disconnect external power. So click disconnect. That's good. And then we can disconnect ground power. And you could go and pull your chocks right now. My brakes are on. I'm going to just get rid of them at the moment. Let's also go ahead. Passengers are aboard. So no devices. Turn off your devices. Seat belts are going on. Emergency exit lights are going to be engaged too. And all of that is good to go. So now we can do the pushback if we'd like. So pushback, there's several ways to do this. I have not done it with GSX yet. The way that I'm doing this right now, especially with an airplane that might not play nicely with GSX or something, is I just like to use Pushback Helper. It's free. It's at flightsim.to. This thing works great. So I'm going to call the tug, and then here comes our tug. So, or our sled, I guess. So the sled's going to come on over here. We're going to start moving the airplane, so we're going to also come over here and turn on the beacon. And there goes the sled. And it doesn't take too long. And usually you can tell it's connected when the sled or the tug goes deep. That's how you know that it's connected. So come on into the airplane, parking brakes off, and then outside, hit the tug and reverse. And there we go. We are reversing. And so what we'll do is we'll just push back beyond the the traffic line there. You can control the speed. You could spin the airplane if you want to. We'll just do a general pushback. Trying to figure out, there are some gates over here at Manchester that don't have jetways. I figure those are the gates where the passengers have to climb aboard. So again, I'm just going to go right beyond this little line here where the traffic goes. So ground traffic uses that as their roadway. Almost there. And that's good. We're going to hit stop. Come on back into the cockpit. Parking brake engaged. Look out here. Hit the tug button. I usually wait until I see the tug drive away, and then I go ahead and turn this off, and our pushback is done. Now then, I did forget to do an important thing, apparently. So one of the things that there is down here is there is nose wheel steering. And we should have turned this off for the pushback. I forgot that. Now that the pushback is over, we go ahead and click this, and it guards it and turns it back on. So all of that is good, and we are now cleared to start. So let's look up here. I'm not sure. There's the prop brake that is on. This might be a good opportunity to hit the auxiliary hydraulic pump button. I don't know if we need to. Let's experiment. So unguard. Oh, let's do the checklist. So the before propeller rotation checklist. Yes, we're going to be good pilots today. All right, so come on up here. And so CDLs on. FMS and takeoff data are confirmed. If we look over there, you can see, yep, it's confirmed. So it's confirmed. So on. Trims. Have we set the trim? No, we haven't. We have not set our trim. So let's see. To set the trim, if you come down and we go back to that one panel here, takeoff trim is supposed to be up 1.7. And if you look over here, there's a little bug for the trim. So if you move it up, and it makes the Pac-Man sound. I call it the Pac-Man sound. It really needs to do the point type of a sound, but it really sounds like that. So trims, you can also zero out your aileron and rudder trim. I'm told that that's a little bit awkward to do, so I'm not messing with that. Doors are closed. And if you could tell the doors are closed, if you look over here, there's the door page. Door number 1, 2, 3. So our doors are indeed closed. And the beacon is on. Procedures complete. So let's go ahead and come up here and let's see if our experiment worked or we need to hit that pump. If it worked, it's going to go to the red unlock is going to happen, and it's going to go to ready, and the prop will start spinning. Ready, the unlock light, and you can tell in the cockpit because the NP% has started to go up. And you could even go outside and see, oh, look at that. We have a spinning prop right now. So at that point in time, you kind of look and see we're doing good, 16%. It's now time to take the condition lever and move it to auto. Okay, so we got that one done. And that's coming to life very nicely. And you can also hear the engine starting to increase in the noise sound too. So a real propeller is spinning here. Also known as the Assassin's Creed swords if you're into computer gaming, like I am. Okay, let's go ahead and start another engine. So we go ahead and get engine starter back to A and B. Let's do pump 1 and start the engine. Same procedure as before. Come on down here. We'll look at this one, and the number's going up at 10%. Just move your condition lever a little bit, and that will put it into feather. That's fuel. And then fuel's starting to come up. Oil pressure's coming up. Lights are going out. And then when I see that that engine has stabilized, then I'll go ahead and come down here and move that condition lever to auto. And we've got 2 engines going. Yay. Okay, so with that being done, I'm going to go ahead and let's do the starter. Goes to off. We're going to turn on the probe heaters now. Did I forget to turn on my windshield heat? I thought I turned that on when we initially powered up everything. Windshield heaters are now on. Okay, so we've got those good. Engine starter is normal. All the white lights are out. That's a good thing. Let's go down here. Probe heaters. And now this is when they say to do flaps 15. And it goes to select 15 and the flap lever goes down. And then after that, your before taxi checklist appears. So let's come on and do that. Okay. FWS, where we hit recall to see if there are any issues in the memo. None. Cockpit comm hatch. So this airplane has an interesting little thing here. It's this. This is called the document door or the comm hatch. And if you go and click it, there is, I don't think you can click, you can't open it from here, but you can click it and open it. That's a hole in the side of the airplane. And this is where you could feed documents. The ground crew can put documents into the airplane. So that's the comm hatch. And it's really kind of interesting watching real world pilots start this airplane. When the hatch is open, it's noisy in the cockpit. So comm hatch is good. Condition levers are set to auto. Anti-ice, we don't need that today. Okay, the true, is it on or is it checked? That's something that's up here. It is connected with the electrical system. You click unguard it and turn it on and then guard it again. And then if you look over here, you see the true grows, the indicator here shows that it goes from white to green. Now, a few people have said in the spy flight chat, oh no, you never do that. Well, it's green, and I'm going to assume, again, that green is good. So, the true is on and checked. Anti-skid test. If you go over here above the landing gear, click the test button. Wheel anti-skid testing is going on. And it will flash at you for a few minutes. And then after that, it shows parking brake on, and that's good. Flaps, 15. Nose wheel steering is on. Procedure is complete. We are now ready for taxi. So I'm going to go and do the taxi and takeoff light on the nose wheel. I'm going to do a cabin call. Let the cabin know that we're about ready to taxi the airplane. And if we were on VATSIM, we get taxi clearance and stuff. This is where I'm going to go over here, and I use this map a lot. So we're over here. So we're going to do a loop-de-loop here, get on the Juliet taxiway, and we're going to taxi to runway 23 right. I've got airplane following on this, so this is going to help me keep everything straight. And I'm going to just look over here before taxi. Oh, I have not turned on my transponder. Or have I? Let's check. I always like to do that because, nope, it was on standby. Because if you're on VATSIM, you know how you squawk mode Charlie on taxiways? Transponder is on. Okay, taxi lights are on. This is also the point in time where you would arm autopilot stuff. So over here on the autopilot, we're going to go ahead and do heading, nav, and 2 clicks of IAS. And if we look over here, it should say heading select is green, LNAV is armed, and pitch hold is on. So we've got those things on. Takeoff config check. We could do the config button. So we look over here. Oh, it doesn't like us. You know what it doesn't like? The parking brake's on. So tap your toe brakes, parking brake off. Hold your toe brakes again. Make sure you're not rolling. And let's try it again. Oh, look at that. It's green. So the takeoff config check is done. It's taxi time. So we'll look over there. We'll look over there. Release the brakes. The airplane usually starts rolling. Let it roll forward a bit, and then you can start doing a turn. And it does a fairly decent tight turn. You may need to add a little bit of throttle. for that other engine. But again, the airplane does not need an awful lot of throttle on the ground. And if you're going too slow, just relax that turn a bit and get moving forward a little bit faster. And that will get you going. There is also a procedure for one engine taxi on this airplane that you can do. And around we come. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but I usually leave the gust lock in place. Oh, let's do a brake check. So we're moving along and we're stopping. Very good to do. I have neglected to do that on occasion, and it has been embarrassing on VATSIM. So we're coming up to taxiway Juliet here. Thrust idle is perfect. This airplane taxis, in fact, it usually picks up speed. I've been found, though, that by leaving the gust lock on, particularly if you're taking off for a windy airport, it does help your stability on your taxi. Okay, let's get the map here ready to go. And the before takeoff checklist has appeared. Takeoff briefing has been done. Gust lock is not off. Some real-world airline videos show them taking the gust lock off almost immediately. Some show them holding on to the gust lock until you get close to the runway. Some wait till on. I've seen it done 3 different ways. I guess it just depends on the airplane, on the airport. I don't think we need to go all the way to the very end of the runway here. Again, we did not do an intersection departure. We don't have that data yet. But I'm going to go ahead and gust lock can go off now. Gust lock is off. First thing to do, control check. And the gust lock is good. Flight controls are great. Transponder is set. Airflow. That's going to be up here between the two temperature controls up there. Airflow is normal. And as we come here, we'll just hold short and finish this checklist. So parking brake. Okay, that's good. So cabin crew. Let's advise the cabin crew. Seats for takeoff. Cabin crew is good. Engine bleeds are normal. External lights are groovy. Lateral FD. The lateral flight director bar. What is that? That's this bar. It's the one that goes up and down. Before you take off, it's really nice to have that thing centered. So we're going to leave the checklist where it is right now, and we're going to go ahead and do strobes and head out to the runway. So parking brakes off, tow brakes on, release them and go. And that's good to go too. So after takeoff, we're going to do 60 degrees. Look at your power set to make sure your power is set. You'll do an initial pitch of only 8 degrees, and if you're flying the bigger airplane, you will drag the tail. I speak from experience. Positive rate of climb, gear up. After that, you engage the yaw dampers because you do not want any of your passengers yawning. Those yaw dampers are important. After you've got a good takeoff, engage IAS mode for climb. Autopilot, power management to climb. Flaps go up at the white triangle. Okay, so now we're kind of pointed right down the runway, and if you've noticed, the flight director lateral bar is almost completely centered. So that's pretty good. If you need to, center your heading bug, and that's going to be the last little bit that you need to do. Okay, so that is centered. Rudder cam, that is back here, and I don't know exactly where that button is, but I always see the captains reach down here. I think it's down in this, but I never see which button they're pushing, so I'm not going to mess with it. No touchy is a good thing to do sometimes with these airplanes, and I think we are now ready to go. So let's go and do landing lights. Shall we go and give this a shot? Parking brakes are released. I've been taking off by taking my throttle and going and putting it in what's called the notch. The notch is the white marks here. Okay, and we got crosswind and I wasn't paying attention. There's 60 knots. Power is set. There we go. Rotate. I was not paying attention. Look at our crosswind on this. Positive rate. Gear up. Okay, that definitely was sloppy for sure. Yaw dampers. Definitely a sloppy departure. Speed's coming down. Got to push the nose down a little bit. We're climbing too fast. Let's do IAS climb and AP. Let the expert take care of us. Now I didn't realize it was this windy. I guess I should have looked at the weather before departure. But we did relatively decently on that one. This is a small airplane. This is not a jetliner. You will get blown around the runway. And yeah, we definitely got blown around the runway on that one, didn't we?
Terrain ahead. Pull up.
So we can come down here and we could go to nav, ND overlay, and terrain. Let's see what it's upset about. I don't see anything to be upset about. Okay, we're coming up on the little white arrow here. So flaps, I think, can go up. And let's go to climb power. Sometimes it doesn't want to go to climb power. And there we go. And in this airplane, 160 and 170 is its happy spot for climbing. I didn't see a big bunch of terrain. Airplanes. After takeoff checklist, landing gear is up. Flaps are up. Power management is climb. Engine bleed are on. Taxi and takeoff lights. So taxi and takeoff lights, when gear goes up, apparently that light doesn't shut off, I think, like some airliners do. So you got to manually turn the nose light off. But as you can see, the landing lights are still on. Okay. So engine bleeds are on. Taxi and takeoff. And altimeters are coming to... What did we decide transition was here? It was 5,000 feet. We're coming up on 5,000 feet now. I'm going to go barrow set. And one of the things that they're saying is when you hit the barrow, do an extra hit the button on the, just do an extra B button on your keyboard for adjusting the barrow. Now you can see our speed's really coming up because we have an altitude constraint here. So 5,000 feet, so you may need to pull your throttle back here. Otherwise, you'll overspeed the airplane. You also should say, was there a speed restriction or something? So I'm pulling my throttles physically back to lose the little yellow arrow there. And I'm going to try and hold about 220. What did it say? Was there a speed restriction on this one? No, there wasn't. So I'm going to hold about 220 on this. And yeah, it really is windy. Okay, so altimeters are set. Procedure is complete. And on my personal list of notes, we're complete there too. Again, the list of notes that I've got is over on Discord. Link in the description. It's under checklists. Okay, so on the checklist, at Pole Hill, so Pole Hill is when we can go above 5,000 feet, unless ATC says, no, you can climb higher whenever you want. This is also an airplane regularly hit the heading bug, even if you're doing LNAV, to keep that centered for you. So a lot of the UK departures have a really, really hard altitude that they expect you to and that's, so that you don't conflict with arriving traffic. Or, even more importantly, you don't conflict with traffic at another airport. That's particularly important in London. One day I was on VATSIM at London City. Not a lot going on. I just started blazing through on my climb. And I got beeped by ATC, and they basically said, what are you doing? You're in our traffic lane. And it's, oh my gosh, I learned that one once and not again. So we could clear ourselves up a little higher. Now, as you make a turn, the winds are going to change. So if you're trying to hold an airspeed, you may have to increase those throttles a little bit. Whereas I was trying to hold 220. This airplane will go and go right up to the barber pole and close and in cruise, and it will sometimes go beyond it. It will sometimes go beyond it. Now the bigger, longer airplane, I haven't been able to make that one do a little bit, go any faster. So I'm clearly doing something wrong there. But this little thing climbs like a rocket compared to the other one, and it will get your airspeed up. And if you're going to take this into London or Frankfurt or something big on VATSIM, I mean, they're going to expect you to hit 240 knots, 250 knots on your climb and descent. You know, they're moving big jetliners through, so you've got to play with the big jetliners like that. Okay, there's 221. So, and if you can see, we are at about 69, 64 on the other side. My throttles are a little bit out of sync. So one of the things I'll be doing today is attempting to sync up my throttles a little better. So if you take a look, you can see, yeah, that looks pretty good. And we're kind of at the top of the green zone here. We're not in the notch, as they call it. It's still 24. So we're at 67. Let's try 65. There we go. See if that does it. ATC at this point in time could be very nice and say, climb and maintain 18,000 feet. Because we're ATC and we're really nice. So we can go and continue our climb. So there's 12. I'm dialing my small number above the altitude tape on the primary flight display, 17 and 18,000. Hit indicated airspeed for climb, and then put your throttles forward back into the notch. And if we look over here, you can see, yep, we're at the bottom of the notch there. And it puts us into climb mode. ATC has just called and said, hey, you're direct to Ribble. So go to DTO, Ribble, and execute. We are now direct to Ribble. And as you can see, because I'm in manage mode, now all of a sudden it's dropped me down to 160. So if I wanted to climb at 240, if ATC said, no, you climb at 240, if you're doing the ATR's version of managed mode, you would have needed to have clicked the button and changed this from pink to white. And that's manual mode. And we are now exiting and looking good. So we're exiting that. And then usually what I'll do is after we exit the star, I'll zoom this out just a little bit. So it'll kind of show me a little bit more on Navigraph. So now it's climbing us at its best climb. And reset that heading bug. Passing 8,000 feet, so we're finally getting above 10,000 feet. No active procedures. No lights blinking and flashing. I did screw up one thing. I have neglected to guard the prop brake. That is not the proper, thing to do. One of the things that I've done is there is a YouTuber called Fly with Magnar. And that YouTuber is a real captain for an ATR and has done some really incredible videos on this, including a walk around of the airplane. And I have to say that the walk around video was very good. I did a preliminary walk around this airplane before I started this video today. And a lot of the things that Magnar was saying that you check are modeled in this airplane. That's part of why it is that I say that there is so much in this airplane that I don't think that we realize. It really is pretty amazing. Passing 10,000 feet, landing lights can go off. I'm going to do a cabin call. So the flight attendants will get on the PA and say, "Thank you for flying with us today. The seatbelt sign is still illuminated, so no, you can't go to the bathroom. But instead, you should take a look in the seat pocket in front of you for an offer for a really, really great credit card." Okay, so if you look over here, you can see this floating thing. What's this? This is this airplane's version of telling you what your top of climb is. Okay, instead of it just saying TOC or a hockey stick, this thing gives you, to remind you, 18,000 feet was my top of climb, and that's when we're going to get to our top of climb. I think that that's pretty freaking amazing. Really, really neat, really awesome about this airplane. Okay, at this point in time, I will usually kind of come down here. We can go to the progress page, and you can see that we are 243 miles away from Inverness. EFOB. This number is constantly changing, going up and down. So until I hit final cruise, if that number is below the official number on the flight plan, which we put in here as final reserve and alternate, 768, I'm not going to panic. Okay, we're still in climb mode. The airplane's still doing math. So in other words, I don't start panicking with this thing until we get to top of climb and maybe even past a checkpoint before I'm going to go and freak out. We're 186 miles away from top of descent. It says an hour and 11 minutes. The airplane is not a speedy airplane. We can go to the perf page here, and it does show the cruise page. But I usually leave this one over here on progress. And I've got the map, and all of that looks great. If we're on VATSIM, I'm over here. There is, if you use the Logitech Flight Simulator radio panel like I do, there is a really nice new SPAD.next profile for the radio. It works great, and I have got to tell you, the Logitech radio panel, if you're flying on VATSIM, is probably the best piece of hardware to get for your flight simulator cockpit. Yep, stick and throttle, rudder pedals, great. This thing is amazing. If you're going to be in a big VATSIM event, if you're going to do Frankfurt Friday, if you're going to go and do, a Chicago overload or something like that, I can't suggest that enough as it being worth your time. Okay, almost to top of climb here. So there's 15,000 and change. It's kind of early morning here, so we're going to be nice to the passenger that had too much coffee. Seatbelts off. Cabin is fairly nicely done. Some of the passenger signs are indeed modeled. Let's see if we look up here. No, we've got devices and seatbelts. I turned those off, but if you look in here, I still have devices on. So if you come over here and do the device switch, so that's turn off your cell phones and smartphones. Now if we come over here and look back, and if you look up here, you can see that now it's off. So that devices turns both of those off if you care. But as far as the cabin, the seat itself is nicely modeled. So that's pretty good. You can go and move yourself to right about like that with your headrest, and that's your view. It's 2x2 seating. I already like that. As you can see, it's not the longest way up there. I don't think that you can go and do open these up. You can push this. Nope, can't push that one. The seats are nicely modeled. There's a flight attendant seat in the front and the back. It looks like we've got a small coat rack over here. So there is a coat rack and closet. And as we come on back here, there is the lavatory door. Nope, can't go into the... There isn't anything modeled there. The phone's nicely modeled. There is a back area here. At least they got a thermos of coffee, so that's good. This is a small door that opens. That's how they shove the service carts in. You can get a used surface cart now for like $1,000 somewhere online. So this carries our passenger load for today was 40 passengers. So I think it's like 47 or 48. The other airplane is 72. Now we can come up here and open this door, and this gets you into the cargo area. So this is the baggage zone. So we can close that. And what they'll do is they'll stack up the baggage in here and then close this, and then stack up the baggage on the other side by the door, and then close that so that you can walk through. The door itself opens kind of half and half like this, and you can come in and you can close the door and stuff. So there we go. There is a seat over here for a jump seat, which I'm sure is painful. As I'm told, all jump seats are really painful except in the biggest of jets. These steps that you see here, that's where you step up to get to the emergency hatch. There's your emergency hatch, and that's your little ladder for the emergency hatch on that. Okay, we are coming up on we're at 18,000 feet, cruise. So cruise power is set. Now we're still in the notch, and you can see that our speed is slowly rising, and you can see the little pink thing is starting to show up there. That's going ahead and putting us into cruise mode. And if we look here, you can see our distance to the top of descent is 170 nautical miles, and that's going to be in 53 minutes. If this is your first time watching one of these cold and dark videos with me here on YouTube, usually what I will do is when we get to cruise, I will go and hit pause on the video, and you should hit pause on the video too. And then what we'll do is we'll start the videos again, let's say 75 miles from top of descent, okay? So when you get to 75 miles from top of descent, that's when you would start the video too. And that's how that works. So we'll wait till we get our power up a little bit here, our speed up, and then that's going to be the plan so that you don't have to sit here and listen to me tell really, really bad jokes. Was going to talk just a little bit about some of the expectations on the airplane. There are a lot of folks that are saying that it's super duper buggy, it's unflyable. Obviously my takeoff was sloppy because I wasn't paying attention, but as you can see, this airplane is very flyable. What I've been saying over on the Spy Flight on Twitch is I think that there is a lot, quote unquote, under the hood. There's a lot of stuff that I think that the developers have modeled in this airplane. The biggest problem that I see at the moment, aside from, them swatting a couple of bugs, is they didn't tell us about it. And the thing is, going out and trying to find a real aircraft operating manual is not always possible, and not everybody knows how to find it. And those real world manuals are, by the way, copyrighted too, which could possibly cause a problem. So one of the big things that I'm kind of jumping up and down like another YouTuber is saying, developers, if you're going to model really great airplanes like this, it's time to do some documentation. And yeah, documentation's not fun, but if you're going to model cool stuff, tell us about it so that we know how to do it. Trial and error is not fun and stuff. The other thing that I was going to carry on about here is the difference is study level. I don't recall at any time when I was hearing about this airplane, the developers officially using the word study level. I did hear them say expert series. So I think that those are two different levels of airplanes. I don't think that they're too well defined in the world of flight simulation. And I think that maybe it's time to start thinking a little bit about what do we actually mean by those things. So what I've gone and done is I've written some stuff up. Oh my gosh, lots of words. And this is not what I think absolutely positively has to do. This is what I'm going to call a polite suggestion, okay? And this is at least a starting place for the discussion about what is an expert series airplane and what is a study level airplane. And I would say that an expert series airplane is aircraft systems accurately modeled, allowing normal operations simulated to match real-world aircraft operating manual standards, and at least 75% of the airplane. How's that as a starting place? Let's talk about study level now. Aircraft systems accurately modeled, allowing normal, abnormal, and emergency operations simulated to match real-world aircraft operating manual standards to at least 95% of the airplane. If you want to use those standards, that's a starting place. And, you know, my hope is that, you know, this little soapbox that I'm on gets around and people start talking about it, and maybe we can come to a little bit of a agreement on what it means to be an expert series airplane versus a study level airplane as a way to prevent ridiculous drama. Because, hey, I don't have to tell you, it's the internet. There is more than enough ridiculous drama out on the internet. And there's even more ridiculous drama out in the world today. But if maybe we can kind of come to some agreements about that and listen to what developers actually say about their airplanes, I would say that maybe that'll go a long way to helping reduce the amount of ridiculous drama. Because I think a ridiculous drama tends to take a toll on you. And after a while, you just say, enough, and you start to tune out. We don't want people tuning out. We want people flying airplanes and having fun. An important caveat in this is I'll get back on the manuals thing. If you want to do an expert series airplane or study level airplane, you have got to include some sort of flight operation manual and a full flight tutorial. So in a PDF file that we can follow and get the airplane up in the air, cruise down in the ground and to the gate, and not make the evening news. There's the microphone there. So that's my contribution to all this. I think this is a great airplane. I think when they plug a few of the holes and do some of the initial release bug swats, I think this is going to be a great airplane. I already think it is a really good airplane, but I think it was a little bit misunderstood, and I think it's happened before. I remember when the Rotate MD-11 came out over on X-Plane. Everybody said it's terrible, and no, they had a couple of bugs to fix. But mostly it was people just didn't understand how to fly an MD-11. So, you know, and it turned out to be a great airplane. I just wish my frame rates were better at X-Plane so I could fly it again. But, you know, that's my little soapbox there. But I think this is a great little airplane, and I think it's fun. This is going to be my fun little commuter plane that I'm going to be using to go to smaller airports from bigger airports, as opposed to, you know, big monster jets going, you know, to faraway places. If you look and see, we're in the notch. So we are in cruise, we are in the notch. We are at about 220. That's a good speed, I think. I don't think it's going to make it all the way up to 240, but, you know, that's pretty good. The flight management computer says that we are 142 miles from top of descent. And so 44 minutes to Inverness. So that means on the my time, it's 15 hours, 15:30 Zulu is my estimated time of arrival. So this is the point where you're going to go ahead and hit the pause button, and I will hit the pause button. And when we get to 50 miles, 50 miles from top of climb, from top of descent, that's when we're both going to hit restart, and I will see you then. Hey, welcome back. Does your top of descent indicator say 50? Thanks for coming back. I hope you're enjoying your flight so well. so much. You know, one of the things, the scenery outside Microsoft Flight Simulator is so awesome. So if you get a chance, obviously we've got clouds, so there's not a lot to see. But when you're in cruise, I hope you get a chance to look around a little bit. Because again, the scenery is just so, oh, look at that. There's our hole in the clouds. It really is pretty amazing. And chances are, if you've got real world and real time cranked in, what you're seeing outside your window is probably what the real world passenger is seeing outside their window. And that's just one of the things that makes it so much, so cool, especially, you know, the amazing scenery engine that Microsoft has introduced to flight simming. Okay, while you were gone, I did two things. Aside from a very nice breakfast, I did come in here and I switched my traffic from above to normal. This is TCAS traffic, so I switched the traffic from above to normal, and I went over to Navigraph, and I clicked on EGPE Inverness and the weather tab and got the latest METAR. Okay, so the winds right now are 050 at 10 knots. The altimeter is 1022. And so that was some cool stuff. So with that information in there, we can kind of come and take a look at the runways. And here at Inverness, it says for the runway we're doing, runway 5, there's going to be a 10 knot crosswind, but zero knots down the runway. So there is a crosswind, but I think that this is the best runway. I bet this is the runway that they would use for this anyway. It's 148 feet wide as opposed to 59 feet wide. So, okay, I can probably see that. So we've got our latest weather, and one of the things that I did is I cut and pasted it into the notes that I call the flight strip. That's what these things are right here. So, and by the way, a version of this is in the description below, so you can copy and paste it into your own notepad and use it, and hope you find it helpful too. So the next thing that I'll do is come on down here, and we're not going back to Manchester. So I'm going to go ahead and delete those maps from my stack of charts down here. And then we'll come in and look at the arrival. And the arrival here is, first of all, it is an ILS. So the ILS is 108.5. Let's go ahead and put that in the nav radios. Now it's supposed to be, there's a checkbox in radios. So it's supposed to do things automatically. But I'm going to go ahead and put this frequency in the standby. And the standby is 108.5, 1.50, and enter. Uh-oh. Clearly typing is not my thing. 108.50. And enter. There we go. So that way, if all else fails, all I need to do is just hit that button, and that gives me the ILS. The next thing that we'll do is minimums. Okay, so minimums, that's over here. And if you look, we've got decision height and MDA. So over here on the chart at the bottom, final approach chart. I didn't grab the final approach chart. Oops. I'm awake. I'm doing it. I'm okay. Okay, final approach chart. Didn't grab that one. Duh. Okay, here's final approach chart coming on in. And let's see, this one says, this is also got a procedure turn over the airport. I don't think we need to do the procedure turn. The ILS decision height is 230 feet. Radar is 200. So 230. 230. Right? Yes, 230. Okay. So come over here, hit MDA, and then dial in 230. So there is 230. Now you see how it's flashing? Okay, that's not right. Here's how you get rid of the flashing. Slide on over the co-pilot and hit the DA MDA button there. And if you look over here, like magic, it's not irritating you anymore. So both of those, both the pilot and the co-pilot have to be set to the same thing. Okay, so that's what we got right now. All right. The next thing that I'll do is take a look at the approach. And the approach coming on in here, it says coming in altitudes. There's no hard altitudes here, but mostly it looks like 5,000 feet, 4,000 feet, and then on the final plunge altitude, platform altitude, we like to be more crazy, I guess, 2,700. Let's go ahead and just do 2,700. So what I'm going to do is come on over here, And I'm going to do this manually. You can also use VNAV, but I have a little more fun being manual. So we're going to go manual here on the speed. And I'm going to go ahead and drop this down to 230. So that's the speed that I'm at, 230. Now this is not an auto throttle. I'm just putting my bug there right now. And then the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put in that 2,700 feet. So it's a little number right here and 2,700. So flight level 27 is what we'll plug in there. And you got to crank for a while. So just hold the button down if you have to crank too much. There's 10,000, 9,000, 27. Now, if you are on VATSIM, you're very rarely going to get to do a, nice, smooth VNAV descent anyway. So that's another reason why I'm doing it like this. Okay, so flight level 270, our heading bug. I've also hit the heading bug. Update that fairly regularly. We've got our MDA set. And over on my little list of things to do for descent preparation, our arrival has been reviewed. Our arrival weather has been obtained. FMC approach page is going to be selected. So let's go ahead and do that. And that's over here. So hit performance. And there it is. It's already set up. So the altimeter is going to be... let's see. Oh, I wrote it down. 1022. Yet this thing is just super glued in 2 inches of mercury. So I'm going to save that for later because this thing will do the conversion for you in here. And I'm not that great with the math, so we'll just wait on that one. But we can go in. We put in our transition altitude already, but we can put in winds. And notice that this is different from an Airbus. This also has gusts in it too. So the weather report says the winds are 050 at 10. So yeah, go in and do 050 at 10 knots. Then you do another slash and a 0 unless it's gusty. And there we go. So the last thing that I've got to do is I've got to put in the QNH. We'll do that later. And it gives us a VAP speed for a full flaps landing of 100 knots. So we can start, 100 knots, okay. That's our landing speed. So we got that one done. We've done minimums. The other thing that you can do is there are 2 buttons that we'll push down here, and they're the bearing buttons. Now right now it's going to put these boxes in here for the ILS and the VOR. Right now they're blank, but that's going to also give us some DME. So we'll do the bearing buttons. Our cleared altitude is set. And again, you can either do it with VNAV or you can do it with manually. I'm going to do this one manually. Top of descent, there's a little top of descent bug right there. And if we go back to progress, it gives us an actual number. Ooh, 15 miles away. It's supposed to happen, it says, in 14 minutes. Maybe a little bit sooner, I don't know. We'll see. But now all of this is done. And let's see, there are no active procedures. Now you could go to normal procedures here and click it and get your descent checklist. It will pop up eventually. So this one is not one that you've got to rush. And I've found in some cases, if you go and start manually selecting checklists, the automatic side of the checklist thing stops. So I'd just rather wait an extra second before I go and run through that checklist. Okay, that's pretty good. The only other thing that I might do, especially if I'm at a VATSIM event, is I'm going to come over and look at the airport, and I'm going to remind myself of how we get around the airport. So landing on runway 5, we're going to hope that here we're going to be able to stop in time to do the 2911, use this as a taxiway to come over here to Echo. And then the gate area is here. Here's the south apron. Again, the Inverness Airport, EGPE, there is a really, really nice freeware over at flightsim.to. We'll be using that today. It's starting to look pretty good. It's clearly a work in progress. The developer of that scenery is clearly adding on to it. So I think that makes it fun to fly in Inverness. It's always fun to fly in Inverness too, because it's sort of like, hey, maybe we'll see Nessie. I never do. Okay, everything else is good. We are 8 miles from top of descent. It says 11 minutes. I guess I could have done a stopwatch and timed it out. The EFOB number. So this number updated. Remember the last time we looked at it, we were in takeoff, we were climbing. Now it's about 882. And if you remind yourself, come on over here. Final reserve and alternate is 768. The fuel on this airplane, I think, has been spot on pretty much throughout the entire, since I got it. That's been one thing. If you've done proper fuel planning, chances are you're going to be spot on. And if you don't know, a real quick thing here, what is it? We got 5 miles. Real quick thing here, you know, over here in the fuel planning, you've got contingency, alternate, and final reserve. Those three lines of fuel, 15 minutes of fuel, the fuel that you need to get to your alternate, and then 45 minutes of fuel, extra fuel. It's supposed to be 30. Oh, I bet I changed it for a VATSIM event. I think I added a little bit of fuel to this one. It's supposed to be, I think, 30. Anyway, these three numbers add up to final reserve and alternate, and unless you get a hold, unless ATC tells you to turn right 30 degrees for traffic or something like that, you're expected to land with at least that final reserve and alternate. We are well above that, so life is good. And now there we are, a minute. And so let's go ahead and hit buttons. So to do that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to hit the IAS button. I've already put my altitude in, and I'm going to reduce my throttles just a little bit. And I'm going to start descending at about 800 to 1,000 feet per minute. So 800 to 1,000 feet per minute is what I generally do. I'm going to look at my throttles and make sure that they're balanced out. Again, that's what I'm going to do today, is try and recalibrate them, because the right side's always been a little bit wonky compared to the left side. And we have now started our descent. In we go. And once you start the descent, all of a sudden, look what happened on your checklists. Descent checklist. FWS recall, we're good. Landing elevations checked. FMS has been set. The decision height is set. The arrival briefing has been done. That procedure is complete. FWS, from my understanding, is flight warning system. I might be wrong. And that is, do we have something, warning or cautions flashing at us? Is there something in the memo? Now, it could also be that it's something down here that we're going to press too. So we have recall here for procedures, and maybe that's what it is that we're supposed to do. I haven't gotten into that yet. But I take that as I don't have any outstanding memos over here or warnings or cautions. So life is good. And now all of a sudden we have descent deviation. This has nothing to do with my sense of humor continuing to descend to the depths of the nether regions. That is, how close are we to the best path of descent to get where we want to be, there. That was awkward, but it kind of worked. So anyway, what I'm doing is I'm ever so slightly moving my throttles back here, and you want to put the pink box on top of the yellow line. The pink box on the yellow line. There you go. I see you saw a new computer game here called Angry Boxes or something like that. And so I'm just reducing my throttles again to try and get that one set. And notice we're also descending in this airplane at about 230 knots. So if ATC says speed it up or slow it down, we can do that. Okay, now my box is finally starting to move. Now, one of the things is I'm doing it very gently, because this box, if you do it too much, it starts to go way on the other side. So, like all airplanes, it seems like, gently does it as far as your control movements. Okay, and as we're coming up in here, it looks like we're starting to get a little close. In fact, that is our approach, I believe. So I'm going to go ahead and just hit this ILS button right now. So I'm going to put that frequency in over there. That's now active. I'll come over here and nothing else to worry about. We still have LNAV engaged and about 50 miles to go, like most airplanes. Generally, as we get a little bit closer, particularly the older airplanes, you know, like the A310, the closer you get, the less automatic stuff you want to let the airplane do. You want to do more of your own descent. You want to do more of your own lateral navigation. So one of the things that you'll do is just go ahead and start taking control of things. Yep, that's our approach right there. So let's go ahead and I'm going to center this bug and I'm going to go ahead and put it in heading mode now. Now that we're in heading mode, I can go over and I can adjust the heading for the ILS, which is 051 degrees. So heading over here and I'm going to do 051 on the heading. And that number, it's a small pink number down here, even harder to see than the rest. Oh, wait a minute. You also have to go and take it out of LNAV mode and put it into radio nav mode. And let's go ahead and now we can adjust that number. There it is. I totally forgot to do that. 051, you can actually see it starting to track there. So 051. There we go. Really hard to see, but there it is. 051. The ILS is set. We're kind of still going in the right direction here. ATC might have given us heading 340 though, so it probably would have been an even number. So 340 on the heading. Okay, so that's good. We're still screaming down at about 230 knots. Now you've noticed that our descent guidance has gone away. So now that we have set the course setting, we can go back to radio to LNAV, and that's going to go ahead and help us out with our descent. Make sure that we're still on the descent profile. We're now about 20 miles away. ATC might be calling us and saying speed to 210. So let's go ahead and reduce our speed to 210. This is going to increase your rate of descent a bit. But generally, I found unless it's really big rate of descent, you know. We're also getting a little bit off of the LNAV course right now, but that's okay. This usually catches up unless you're doing a massive screaming slowdown. We're getting a little bit low here, so we're going to do seatbelts and no devices. I'm also going to do a cabin call. Flight attendants, 10,000 feet, sterile cockpit. And as you can see after the slowdown, you can see that we're recovering our descent deviation. We're a little bit slower, so we may need to pull the throttles back even more. Oh, did you see I pulled it a little bit and boy, did it jump. So just barely moving your throttles. And again, maybe that's because my throttles are not, maybe they're getting old and a little dirty and stuff like that. So it really does kind of move around. But there's 10,000 feet and there's 210 knots. And usually, you know, if we're going to fly with the big jets, it's, you know, right around 210 knots when you're about 20 miles from the airport or less. And then it's 180 knots for your turn to final. This airplane will do that. So we can fly into Heathrow if we want to. I don't know if Logan Air does Heathrow or not. This, in the real world, Logan Air flies a CRJ. I believe the one that I saw was a CRJ 7 or a 9. So I think they fly, you know, CRJ on this particular route. They have a little prop liner that they'll fly up to Kirkwall on the Orkney Islands. And as we're getting a little bit closer, I'm going to click the bottom part of the map. Not that part. Oops, I clearly don't know what I'm doing. There's the top of the map, Is it down here? There it is, to zoom it in. Again, if you remember over here on options and click spots, so I was clicking the ND, system, map, and performance. The range is down here, so I was clicking the performance button. So that's what it was that I was clicking there. I usually leave this over on aircraft. How we doing? Looking pretty good. Our descent deviation, we're a little high. So if we go and just gently pull that throttle back, let's see what happens. See if that catches up. Again, I'm just barely moving my throttles here. Whoa. I don't think we want to do quite that much. So 26 and 26. I think I would rather be a slight bit high than a slight bit low. Let's see what that does for us. We're actually getting ready to turn to final about now. Our friends from ATC would be saying maintain something, something, something until, established on the localizer. Maintain 180 knots until 5 miles DME. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and dial it in. We are picking up glide slope and localizer now. You can see we're 15 miles out. So let's go ahead and let's do 180 knots until 5 miles DME. Cleared for the ILS, runway 05. So at that point in time, I'm going to also want to turn us in a little bit here. And they would actually give us a very, very nice course and heading into the ILS there. Let's also go ahead and arm the approach. We're going to get a little help from the autopilot on this one. Now we can be above 2,700 here, so that's pretty good. We're actually a little bit high now. You can see on the glide slope, so I'm going to pull my engines back even more. So I'm also going to go ahead and do another, how about another 10 degrees on the turn to make it easier for it to capture the ILS. We're at 180 knots. We're also still a little on the high side here. But we should capture the localizer just fine. Okay, there's 180. How about an approach checklist? Seatbelts are on, landing lights are not on. And altimeters are not set. Holy moly, 1022. 1022. There we go. Which gives us a inches of 30.19. Go to performance. 30.19. Plug that in. All of our data is now in. It's still giving us a VAP approach of 100 knots. Hey, look at this. We're also coming up on the glide slope and localizer are both captured now. So life is good there. We're also below the 2 hash mark lines. So I'm going to go ahead and let my speed go down just a touch here. And that's good. We are now 10 miles from the airport, so we're going to maintain this speed. Now it's probably a good idea to do landing gear. Here comes the gear. And altimeters are now set. Cabin altitude is groovy. Before landing is our next checklist. Gear is going down. Now our speed's really dropping again, so go ahead and add a little bit of prop on this one. And on the approach, we go from cruise power to takeoff power. Power management. And we're still supposed to be holding about 180, although I've fudged just a little bit, just a touch. There's the 5 mile range. There's the airport. So everything else is good. And cabin crew. Let's advise cabin crew. Seats for landing. And landing gear is down. 3 green lights. Flaps are on the way out. That's good. Power management is takeoff. True low speed checked. I don't think I understand that one. So we're going to assume that we did it great. Icing AOA light is not on. External lights are on, and our landing checklist is done. So all of this is looking good. I'm also sitting back in the seat just a little bit, gently putting my feet on the rudder pedals, zeroing my heading bug here. We're at about 160. We're coming up on 5 miles. Again, our landing speed is supposed to be down to about 100. I'm going to go ahead and drop that bug down to 100 now. Now the air, it should not, since we're on the glide slope, I'm just setting this up for a bug. This is just a bug for me. So there is about 115 knots. I'm going to start rolling the throttles back to idle to slow us down and get some more flaps out. I see the airport. I see the runway. I'm going to remind myself that we are exiting to the left. And there is another triangle, so the another triangle for flaps is coming up. And there's some more flaps rolling out, and oh my gosh, check out the scenery out there. Nice homes. Speed's still coming down. It's still big arrow there, so we're going to add just a little bit of power. How about flaps 3? Everything is looking nice here today, but there's rain showers in the area, so I'm guessing that we probably had a little bit of rain. Flaps are full. Airplane looks great. There's the river up to CLNCE. My flaps are now, my throttles are now basically idle. If we were on VATSIM and we would be talking to tower now. Now it's beeping at us. It's saying we're getting a little slow. It will tell you that you're too slow. It gives you a stall warning like that, which is great. If we were talking to tower and I noticed that there was a ground control, I would be presetting ground control because that's a time when you're really busy in the cockpit. We're stable on our descent. And so I will make sure that all those things are done before I'm going to go ahead and disconnect the autopilot, which we're going to do right now. AP is off. Captain's got the airplane. These jetliners are made for 2 people. And if you're flying something like this in a very big VATSIM event, it is no shame to use the autopilot to get yourself established on the ILS and get all the extra things that 2 people are expected to do together. So it really is indeed no shame at all to use the autopilot. Nice gentle descent. Speed is relatively good.
Approaching minimum. $200. Minimum.
Landing.
$100. $50. $40. $30. $20. $10.
And a little bit of reverse prop, and we get off the runway right where we wanted to get off. How about that? And there's that other runway that we were talking about, and this is our taxi in. Welcome to Inverness. I didn't think I was going to make it. I thought we were going to have to do some back taxi. Flaps up. Landing lights off. Strobe lights. Nose wheel taxi light. Generally, I see the real world pilots doing that when they transponder to standby. When they put the gear down, that's when they do the light on the nose wheel. Okay, so after landing checklist, radar is off. Flight controls, let's do the control lock now. So control lock. And like I said, I really kind of, whoa. I really kind of feel like, except for me twisting the knob over there, except for me doing that, the control lock really helps. Flaps are up. Trims get reset to 0. Man, this airplane, I am just all over the place today. This is why there's 2 people in a cockpit. So there's one person to clean up the airplane and watch the other person to actually taxi the airplane. Okay, now we're nicely stable there. And the trim is 0. Trim is 0. Now, also, as soon as you land, one of the things you do in this airplane is you set a clock for 3 minutes. That's so that you can turn off the engines. So they need a little bit of cooling time. And we're clear of that runway. So let's see here. We did flight controls, flaps, trim, landing and strobe lights, anti-de-ice, probe heaters. 1, 2, 3. There's the fire department. We probably should not be doing all of this distracted taxiing. You turn off the true. And so click it and off regard. Come on around over here. I'm also thrust idle, by the way, at the moment. It's just thrust idle. Okay, the true is off. And after, that's going to be 3 minutes. So prop number 1 is now going to go to feather. And there's the nice terminal. So there's at least 2 minutes. And then fuel shut off. And so there goes prop number 1. And there looks like a good place to park. Is that a parking line? Yeah, there's a parking line right over there. Some places to park are not always easy. Now, once you've turned off that prop, you really don't want to let the airplane slow, because getting going again is a problem. And we can go ahead, and that can go to... Oh, somebody, I went and did something too soon. So here's the thing about this. I lost hydraulic pressure for normal braking because I went and I put this propeller here. I went and put that one into feather. So I lost the hydraulics on the green side, which is your toe brakes. So I just jammed on the parking brake. Not my best moment for sure. Okay, but with this done, we can come up here and let's do the prop brake. And it says the prop brake has engaged. So if you look out there, you can see the prop is now engaged there. We can go put wheel chocks in, ground power. We can start opening doors up. I should have done also the beacon at this point in time and the nose wheel on taxi. So again, super duper sloppy here, but as you can see, there's just a lot to this airplane that's really, really good. And let's go ahead and do the parking checklist. And so let's go click this down and parking checklist, and then I'll let you get going. So parking brake is engaged, taxi and takeoff lights, CL is feather, beacon is off, transponder is standby, seat belts are off, and then you can either do a checklist if you're going to do another leg. So if you're going to go back down to Manchester or something, you can do that, or if you're leaving the airplane, which is pretty cool. Let's also clear the caution, and our airplane is basically deboarding. Passengers are good. And there don't appear to be any complaints or anything like that. Let's do a quick check of Volanta. So Volanta, now Volanta, you're going to have to end the flight on these because you have not actually shut down both of your engines. So it thinks that you are still flying. So end your flight, then review. And this is going to give me the number that we all care about in flight sim. What was my landing rate? Minus 214. Okay, it was kind of windy, so let the excuses begin, right? It is a little bit windy there, but I'm not going to worry about it. The big thing that I'm trying to do right now is I'm trying to hit the main little target here. So this is where I was supposed to touch down. As you can see, I was hunting for butter. Okay, so... But I'm trying to get better at stopping here, at touching down where you're supposed to. And so that's what I'm trying to do these days. So obviously the hunt for butter continues. The last thing that you might want to do, if you feel like it, is come over to the main page over here. It's not clicking there, so let's go to Systems. And look at our fuel. Our fuel is 580 and 580. So 580 times 2 equals 1,160. The flight plan said we should have had closer to 768. We had more fuel than we needed, but I think what that is that's that 45 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes that I had plugged in there for a VATSIM event. I always add a little bit of extra to a VATSIM event. And there we go. Like I said when I was ranting about stuff, I think this is a great airplane. One of the things that I'm going to be doing is taking it on another flight without a camera on and really try and get good at the airplane, because I think that there's an awful lot of stuff in there. And again, I am not sponsored by anybody. So this is what I think. I think it's a great airplane for flight sim. If you are just new to airplanes and you've been flying the Cessna 152 and want to start getting a little bit bigger airplane, start doing some stuff, I think that this is a great airplane from general aviation before you start flying the regional jets and then the big jets. So absolutely outstanding airplane for sure. Again, I'll say it again, this is not about the right way versus the wrong way. This is what I have found that works for me, and as you can see, it mostly works for me pretty good here. I am still really new here on YouTube, so I'm still reading all questions and comments. I appreciate shares and likes. If you liked it, please do that. If you really liked it, come on and join us on the Spy Flight, 757 Spy on Twitch. We fly every day, Tuesday through Sunday at 1900 Zulu, and we'd certainly love to see you over there. Also, I want to say a very, very big, huge thank you to my donors on Patreon and Ko-fi. You are the jet fuel that is fueling my flight plan right now. And since I'm one of those people who lost his job to layoffs and this is how I'm surviving, you really have become my heroes. Secret agents, special agents, and double O's, thank you. Also a huge thank you to the Twitch subscribers, and thanks for helping me grow the channel. I appreciate you coming in. I hope you hope that this was a little bit valuable, and that you're enjoying the airplane as much as I am. At this point in time, this is what I always like to say: stay healthy, stay safe, and we'll see you in the friendly sim skies. Cheers.